Welcome back, friends. Another episode of Inspired Alignment coming at you. We are feeling it. We are so excited. We love talking to each other, and we love talking to you, and we love sharing our journey and knowing that it resonates on some level, in some core, with you guys. So thank you for lending us your ears, lending us your time. We understand how precious time is, and yeah, we're just very grateful that you choose to give a little window of it to us. We are going to dive a little bit into authenticity today, which I feel like sort of is my wheelhouse. I've gone on an authenticity journey. I don't know when it started. I started doing a word of the year maybe in 2019. And the first year that I did a word of the year, my word of the year was authentic. If you guys have followed me for a while and you love me, you might remember, because when it was authentic as my word of the year, I did like a monthly authenticity update and like how I was doing with my authenticity, which is like a bit comical to me now looking back at it. But hey, we all walk our own journeys. So we want to talk about authenticity in motherhood, I think, and what a journey and what a road it is to discover authenticity in motherhood, because there are so many components to authenticity as a mom. And I was going to say, you've been a mother longer than I have, so why don't you begin? But that's
longer than you.
I know that's false.
I know. I'm older than you. I've been on this planet for longer than you, but no.
I know, so I think maybe that's what I was leaning into, is like, you have existed longer than I have, so therefore your wisdom must prevail. So why don't you begin? But yeah, it's true, I've been a mother longer than she has.
HP for beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is all because in this beautiful journey that we are going through together, raising our kids together, we can see what we are not easier than what we are when we are in our homes with our children. Like now we have somehow a mirror to reflect what we are, and it's like, yeah, I agree with you, I will do the same things as you. But we also have the mirror to reflect what we are not.
Yeah.
And we also have the mirror to reflect what we would love to, but it feels so unauthentic to us. It's like, So I think in those three spaces, we can see ourselves and maybe get the reflection back to see who we are, and honor who we are.
I want to back it up a step, and I think maybe that's why I wanted you to begin, and why somehow in my mind I think you've been a mother longer than I have, which, yes, it's like I have an 11-year-old and she has an 8-year-old. So technically speaking, I have been a mother longer. But I think our journey into motherhood has been so different. Like when you were saying right just then, now we have each other to see what we're not. For me as a mother, I was a very young mom, and I was not prepared to be a mother at all when I became one, like at all. So being short of dropped into my motherhood journey, I was comparing myself to everybody right off the bat. And I felt like in so many levels, in spaces and places, I did not, what is that word? Measure up at all. Yeah, like I was not cutting it. Whereas your motherhood journey was very different. You were incredibly intentional.
Yes.
So I think maybe that's why I want you to begin. But if we can back up a little bit, like before where we are right now.
This is so funny. It's just starting. It's like, yeah, authenticity is you said like it's my environment.
Wheelhouse, yeah.
And then I see you, and it's like, well, I started with Inspired Motherhood, like your account, your Instagram account, with you sharing your journey in some way or another one. It's the authentically aligned, and for me, it's Inspired Motherhood. And yes, my journey as a mother was more intentional. Like I always knew that I was going to be a mom, that I wanted to be a mom. Since a little girl, my teachers used to call my mom to complain about me because I wanted to mother all the children, and the children were annoyed by me because like, come on, then she wants to brush their hair and do their homework with them, and she's just only 3. Like, can you please talk to her? Mothering is always been in me. I somehow felt for a long time that I had something important to do throughout motherhood, maybe through the way I mother my children, or actually the intention of Inspired Motherhood was to inspire other people who will follow me to be more conscious on the way they parent their children. I chose actually my degree as a teacher, like a degree in education, because I wanted to learn more about how to do that thing. Only come to a realization is like, okay, every parent should go through school to get a teaching degree so they can be better parents. Like, how come this is not being taught to everyone before? This should be a requirement. Like, everybody goes and takes the license, everybody should have a parenting license. That is my
parenting license.
My idea is like, you want to be a mom, go learn a few things here and there, because otherwise, nowadays we have now a tendency that conscious people and aware people wanting not to have children because this is such a crappy world. Like, what are we doing? And I once heard a guy that I follow, and I've been following him forever, Matthias Stefano, and he said, no, it's the contrary. Is the conscious people and aware people that should be parenting and should have, the children. Otherwise, the stupid ones, sorry about that, the word, but the stupid ones, the unaware ones, are the ones raising.
Yeah, we're leaving the planet in their hands.
Exactly. And it's like, yes, he's totally right. Like, yes, he has a point.
Yeah. So to my point, like, before you became a mother, you had worked on a lot of your shit.
Yes.
As much as you were aware of at that time. And I would say that you were pretty well on your path of self-help and peeling back your layers and self-discovery as an individual.
Yes.
Before then, correct?
Yes.
And you were working through, I don't know, childhood stuff to some degree?
To a certain point. I think, as I said, in the opportunities that I have to speak in public about parenting and conscious parenting, it all started with my body.
Yeah.
Like, life had a way to stop the road that I was going through and put like a blockage. It's like, you're not going through that road again. Just you have to stop. And that was when I had the car accident.
Right.
Somehow that car accident.
That was before kids.
Before having kids. I was in 2008.
Yeah.
And that car accident means more in my life than I have the opportunity to share with other people. No, I realize it, and I have it conscious. I know I'm aware of that. I just don't stop in details and share to people, oh, I had this car accident that somehow changed my life. But it was a pivotal time in my life when I had my life as it was. Then I had a car accident, and the car accident was like making me stop everything. I could not teach, I could not walk, I could not continue with my life the way I was, because I was not paralyzed, but I couldn't function very well. I couldn't be standing for more than 5 minutes. I couldn't be walking. I couldn't be lifting weight. I could not be teaching little kids because my back was fractured somehow. And after that surgery, my life is completely different. I am no longer married to the same person. I no longer live in the same house. I don't have the same career. My life is completely changed after that car accident. But when I started thinking, expecting that my life will continue the same, everybody's have an opportunity in life when you have the opportunity to start all over again. But we are so stubborn that it's like, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna continue. Let me go back to my life as it was. I couldn't. My body needed some other activities to do, and I started yoga.
Right.
It was like the success rate for the surgery that was performed in my back was very, very low, and it was part of a trial. And the doctors told me very clearly, like, I will operate and I will perform this. This is a trial surgery. I cannot reassure you that you will be okay. I cannot even reassure you that you're going to be walking. But I was so desperate and so much in pain that I said, please do anything that you need to do. And while I was in bed recovering from surgery, I started, researching about back care and what are the things that I could do for my back to be in um, the best health possible.
Mm-hmm.
And yoga was always in the results. And it's like yoga. And so, well, if I do yoga and if I practice yoga, I didn't want the yoga for yoga only, just for the asanas and the poses and this look like that was way before Lululemon yoga. That was way before yoga was even trendy. And I said to myself, if I do yoga, I would like to learn about yoga philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always been in the spiritual world, in the spiritual, I was always aware of the spiritual realm and the spiritual surroundings, my spiritual surroundings. It's like I want to learn about the philosophy. And one thing led me to another one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like whatever started for my back, then expanded to my body, my posture, then through the things that I was ingesting. And I somehow started at the same time, like getting ready for motherhood. I was getting in my 30th, and it was like, this is the time for me to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I was in my 20s, and I said, like, I'm gonna start getting ready for motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And once you change your body, you change your mind, you change your food, the nutrition, everything changes. It's like one thing leads you to the other one. It starts with your body, and then with the food that you take, and then your mind somehow is like you think clearly and you see things that you don't see, and start considering, and you start becoming aware of many other things. So by the time I was pregnant with Nico, I had already worked on my body, worked on my nutrition, worked on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in a different state as a mother.
Yeah.
I was more in tune of who I was,
Mm-hmm.
who I wanted to be. No, more than who I wanted to be, who I did not want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So when I became a mom, I could see all the moms around me, and instead of me comparing and see, I want to do this and I have to do that, I was like, I'm not doing that. Like everything that you are doing, it did not resonate with me. So I went to my cave, and it's like, I'm gonna do this by myself. I'm not gonna share because this is too weird, and it's not gonna be accepted.
Yeah.
And it brought me even problems somehow, or issues with my own family, to the point that my family feels still that I didn't want them to be part of the way I was parenting Nico, or the way we're doing things with our children.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what I was getting to, was the fact that you had a confidence, whether you would look back now and be like, oh yeah, I did everything exactly how I meant to, but you came into motherhood with a confidence and at least some sort of feeling like, I know how I want to do this, or like you said, how I don't want to do this. And so,
to some extent,
yeah,
I will call it arrogance, instead of confidence.
Yeah.
Okay. 8 years after, I think it was more arrogance. Okay. Number one, because I had the teaching degree.
Oh yeah, it's true.
It's like, I am not going to be like other moms, because I know how to work with children, and I know children, this well.
I do.
And motherhood was like, smack me on the face. Yeah. You don't know anything. Surrender.
Oh, with all the grace in my heart.
Yes.
All of my friends, because like I said, I was a young mom. So I have so many friends that have educational degrees or some degree of child things, early learning, education, whatever. I was a camp counselor. And all of those people, without also being a mother, who took time out of their lives to tell me how perhaps I should be parenting my child. I think there's just much to be said with what you were saying. You had a freaking educational degree, and you came in high and mighty, like, I know how I'm going to do this. And then parenthood in and of itself is like, yes, as you said, it would be wonderful if everyone becoming a parent would at least have the factual information on how children's minds develop, what can be expected of them, the phases that they go through, all of that logical side of it would be so beautiful to be provided to every parent to be.
Yes.
But that overarching, I know how kids work, it's just not applicable to any child. Like I have three, and I did one thing with my oldest, and then I tried to do it with my next one, and I'm like, oh, it's not working. And then my freaking daughter, my last one, is like nothing that I have done with any of the kids works with her. She's just a freaking different being. So this concept of like, I know how to do kids is like, no, you don't, because kids are individuals. And
well, the thing is that as a teacher, you know how to do kids. It's like you know how to shape the kids in a certain way. So you know it's the same cookie cutter. You just have to mold them, put them in here, all that they are, mix them all, you know, break them in many different ways, and then just put them in that mold, and then you put them all in the oven until they are ready for the other grade, and then you put them in the other oven. But when it's motherhood, there's no freaking mold. It's like that's why mothers are so puzzled. It's like, oh, but my first child is not like the second one. We are not the same as humans. We are not the same. We are not meant to be the same. We're not supposed to be the same, look the same, think the same, talk the same, express the same. But the system wants us to believe that we are all the same. We are not. We are many different versions of what humanity is. And all those versions become one. We are everything. We are that way of thinking. We are that way of acting. We are that way of eating. We are that, like many different things. We are all that.
Well, and I think that's such an interesting concept, because I feel like that concept of like, we're not all the same is trendy now. And so you'd be hard pressed to find a person that will be like, that would directly look at you and be like, of course I want us all to be the same. Everyone nowadays is like, no, we're not supposed to be the same. Like, we get it. But we're not talking about like, oh, we don't want to all dress the same and look the same. We're talking about the fact that some of us have emotions that, you know, come out and scream, and they're loud and make anyone else in the room who's not so great with emotions like wildly uncomfortable and like, oh my God, I need to fix what is going on, because that level of emotion is so different to what I have, and I want to make their level of emotion the same as mine in something that I can understand. And I'm trying to think of another example. Emotions are like the main thing that I can come up with, even with our kids. Like something happens to one of our kids, and some of them don't bat an eye, and they just kind of take that, whatever emotion's coming up for them in that moment, they just take it in, and they sort of integrate it somehow into their system on the level that a 4, 6, 8, or 11-year-old can. And they don't talk about it. They don't necessarily feel it in its entirety. And then we have kids that something happens to them and it's level 10,000, and we're like, what is happening? Oh my God, did somebody lose their finger? And it's like, no, he touched my Lego. And it's like, okay, that's different. And the fact that neither one of those is wrong, and the fact that one of those for me is far more comfortable.
Yes.
And one of those for me, I know how to deal with. And the other one, I'm like, oh my God, like, what the hell? Like, I was not raised like this. I do not comprehend this. I am not teaching my children to be like this. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But it's that level of like, we're not supposed to be the same. My knee reaction wants to be like, can you please not emote at that level? Because it makes me uncomfortable, and it elevates my whatever, and I want to fix your problem and like somehow correct you. Whereas the opposite end, like I think you've seen my kids probably like shutting down a little bit more. And she was like, oh my God, they took that thing and they like went into their room, and they like, did you go talk to them? Did you give them an opportunity to say how they're feeling? Did they cry? Did you ask them if they wanted to cry? I'm like, oh, you know, we just deal with those things differently.
Yeah.
And there's so many examples of that. And that's the level of not the same that we're talking about. Because I just really feel like there's a huge shift in the greater collective of everyone be like, of course we're not supposed to be the same.
Yeah.
And it's like, but can you stop and think in your life for just one moment, something that makes you uncomfortable? Like you're in your world and you're going through your days and you're going through your routine, and something happens around you and you're like, oh my God, like that person is rude. That person is inconsiderate. That person is way over the top. That person's out of line. Whatever words you would use to describe somebody's behavior that to you is like, that is so different to how I would handle that. And the fact that judgment comes very easy to us in those moments. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, I have no idea why they're doing that thing that way, because I would never do that. Yeah. I would never.
But that brings us back to the system and the cookie cutter system. Yeah. You know, when we go to school and we are taught the same way, yeah, and we are supposed to answer the same kind of questions, mm-hmm, express in the same way, and have the same kind of answers. Mm-hmm. And the teacher as a labeler, like, you know, the machine, the label makers, mm-hmm, yeah, as a labeler comes like, you are an A, and you're an A plus, and you're a B, and you're a C, and you're a D. That's when the judgment starts. And, you know, of course, everybody wants to be the good child, mm-hmm, and do things as they are expected. And God forbid you to do things differently because you're going to be labeled as a not so good. Mm-hmm. And so we grow in a system where there are labelers. Like, we allow other people to label our own children as good, not so good, or bad. Yeah. And then what can we expect from those children that are coming out of the system? Just to continue judging outside. This is good, this is bad. This is good, this is bad. So it's good. Like, every action and reaction has a label. Mm-hmm. So we are not the same, but even that we are not the same has different layers. I will say it has different layers. Like, one layer is like, we are not the same physically speaking. Mm-hmm. We are not the same even culturally speaking. Mm-hmm. We are not the same the way we think. Mm-hmm. We are not the same the way we express. Mm-hmm. And what you said about feelings and reactions, that's a totally complete different layer. Mm-hmm. And it's an even more complicated layer. That is, we are not feeling the same way, or we all have feelings, but the way we feel is different. And that is the beauty of being humans. Mm-hmm. It's like, you and I had the conversation before when you said, like, I don't feel things. I just don't feel. And it's like, I think your problem, you feel, but because you don't feel the same way that you see other people feeling, you judge yourself and say, I don't feel. Mm-hmm. Of course you feel, but you feel in your own way. The same way I feel my own way, the same Stephanie feels her own way when she just cries, and it's like, you can just see she cries, as she says, very well said. She says, I cry for everybody who can't or does not give permission to themselves to cry. Yeah. Like, we all feel different. Mm-hmm. And it's through those feelings, and that's why I put it in layers. Mm-hmm. Like, nowadays, what's trendy is at this level, at the very superficial level. Mm-hmm. And we can judge them as a very superficial, but they are going to go, it's starting to go downwards and downwards and downwards and downwards, as everything in life goes. Mm-hmm. Until they are capable of see all the many different layers in which we are not the same. Mm-hmm. And once we all touch bottom, what's the bottom? It's the same thing. So we become the same. We become the one, because we are not but vortexes of expression of, you know, that bigger being that some people call universe, some other people call God, some other people call Allah, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter the name. It's just that it is everything that it is, everything that expresses and transforms in everything that we see as different. It's all part of one being, one thing.
One gigantic motherhood journey.
Exactly. And that connects with the beginning of the conversation of being authentic. Because talking about the system, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to throw stones and rocks and whatever I can find to the system, because the systems are finally crumbling and falling, and it's like, it's no longer sustainable, because humans are now in that loop. It's like, I cannot be part of the system because the system is not giving me the best
System is
of my of my being. So yeah, system is failing us, but we are now outgrown the system. So that's why the systems are just falling.
Yeah.
And people are starting to go into that loop. It's like, okay, we are all different. What makes me different? Like going into that inner loop that we have been talking about so many times. Like, yes, I'm different in yours, but what makes me different? And not only that, once you find the differences, is to find peace with what makes you different. And after that peace is the acceptance that you are different. And then finding love for that, for the differences or the things that make you different from other beings, and remaining in that authenticity. So when we as mothers are expected to do the same things the same way, and when we compare to each other, it's like, this is not the way I do it. And not only that, in our journey, I know it's true because we have been in that journey, like somehow co-parenting with other parents or other moms, and we all come to the same realization. It's like, yes, we do things differently, but at the same time, the things that we keep hiding, so nobody can see, because these are our things, because they're not supposed to be, told or expressed or said in a certain way. We are all doing it. And it was so liberating at the beginning. It's like, the first time, I remember the first time I heard you probably, or somebody, another mom, yelling at the child. I was like, you get down! And to me, it was like, oh my God, I feel normal. It's like, she yells too. I'm not the witch. I am not the horrible mom that yells at her children when she's losing her shit. It's like, she's doing it too, and she's pretty cool. And I consider her a very good mother, not because she yells at her kids, that makes her a bad mother. And again, the labels. What makes us good mothers and what makes us bad mothers? And we are also breaking that mold. Motherhood, we can see it as part of another system that is also crumbling and breaking, because us mothers are daring to mother our children from our hearts. As I said in a public speaking event that I had, like, stop parenting from Google, start parenting from your heart. Like, how many times as a mom was like, I don't know what's going on with my child, and let me Google it. Google is not going to tell you what your child needs. Your heart knows what your child needs. But we are so in disconnection from our hearts. We are so in incoherence with who we are authentically that we don't know sometimes what our kids need. But we are supposed to know what our kids have. We had them in our womb. They grew in our bodies. 9 months, we were one body, one mind, one everything. So when they come out, that connection is still there. But why? Why do I feel the need of Googling what's going on with my child? Why do I feel the need of asking another mom, what do you think my child needs? Because we are disconnected from our authentic being. We don't know who we are. We know what we are not. Sometimes, when we are lucky, we know what we are not. But do we really know who we are?
And we overcomplicate everything. As mothers, I think, like, mothers are not just mothers nowadays. They are, I don't know. I've had this conversation with many people. I don't think you and I have had this conversation, though. Whatever blessed women, however many years ago, decided that we have a place in the workforce and we have a place in the man's world, and that we have the right to be there, which, yes, we do. I'm by no means saying we do not have a place there. But we picked up our pitchforks and we stormed offices and we said we have a right to be here. And we didn't let go of any of our previous responsibilities of homesteading and running the household and all the other things that moms have on their plates. We took them all with us into the workforce, and eventually some space was made for us in the workforce. And then we made it for our own selves that we were now expected to carry everything that we carried before, when our role was primarily to be at home and take care of kids and be in tune with their needs and know them and feed them and nourish their spirits and souls and bodies. We took all of that with us into the workforce, where then we were now also expected to crush it in the workforce and be CEOs and boss ladies and, you know, powerhouses in business meetings and intuitive, innovative, creative geniuses. And now we just put it all onto ourselves. Plus, nowadays, kids have to be in at least one activity a week, if not 3 or 4. So we have to manage their forms and homework and whatever they need for that activity. And did they remember to get their violin for violin lessons? And did we wash the proper clothing, dance costume, so that they have what they need for that? And then if you have more than one kid, you're doing that for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kids, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week, depending on how many things you put your kids in. So we have moms that are incredibly overcomplicated in their lives. And that's something you and I talk about many times, is busyness and simplifying.
Yeah, we actually named it the other day, like decluttering motherhood, remember?
Yeah.
It's like, it's just, let's declutter motherhood. Like, what is motherhood in reality? For me, and this has been a journey of, you know, reshaping somehow with everyday experience, and as the time goes and my wisdom grows and my children are showing more of who they really are, this concept of what am I supposed to be doing as a mom changes and improves and becomes more whole. It's like there is this spiritual being having this human experience coming through my body with these genes to work on something, whatever, with or through their wisdom. Also with a package. They come with a package. Like we have a saying back home in Spanish. I will say it in Spanish and then I'll translate it. It says, algo así, something like, cada bebé viene con su pancito debajo del brazo. It's like every baby comes with a piece of bread under the arm. Like in a way to say that we are all being provided, but that piece of bread can be actual food to survive and sustain in this world. But I like to see it as the gift. Like we all come with a gift and a talent. And for me, motherhood is to be in that space of wonder that you and I have been talking about a long time. It's like, okay, you have something in the middle there, like, and you are just observing. You become the observant of that being, and you just wonder, what is your gift? What is your talent? Oh, I see that you like dancing. It's like, and you have been dancing since you were a baby. Like my mother-in-law likes to say that Ivan used to dance even with the chaka-chaka of the washing machine. It's like, he danced to the rhythm of the washing machine. Like he was always dancing. Not that Ivan is a dancer, but those are moments where you as a mom wonder, are you a dancer? Oh, or like you. Oh, you see Fifi? Felix is always with mud in his hand, and it doesn't matter where he goes. He needs to dig and pour water and grab the mud, and it's like, oh my goodness, like pottery. Is this child gonna be a pottery person? Like, you know, like maybe he wants to work with clay. And instead of asking that child, go wash your hands and you're all dirty, and it's like, no, just embrace it. Tell me, what are you creating? And what can you make of that? And not only a ball, can you do something more than a ball? Can you make a snake? Can you make this? Can you make and enriching that child's inclination towards something? That to me is motherhood. Like to offer that space for the child to become who he really is, who he already is, or she is. I'm not coming with my mind and say like, oh, because I've always wanted to be a painter. And it is my desire, my soul's desire to be a painter. But because I could not, I want you to live my dream through me. or for me. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, and I think
please
we do that.
become a painter now, because I'm gonna be, now that I have, because my parents couldn't get the best canvases or the best oils or the best whatever, I'm gonna get you everything that I didn't have, so you can be happy, because happiness is to be a painter. I'm sorry, honey, that was your dream. What is your child's dream?
Well, I think that's so subconscious in us sometimes. Like, I don't think any of us would fool ourselves quite as blatantly as that. I think it's just, how do I say this? Kind of like what you were saying at the end there. Like, if I find joy in, to put it in a very, very, very silly example, I am usually a warm person. And so when my kids were little, I sort of assumed that their body temperature was probably the same as mine. And so I would put them in like what I assumed they would be warm enough or not too hot in. And there would be times where they'd want to go outside and I'd be like, oh, don't take your sweater, like you're going to be too hot. And they'd be like, no, I'm cold. And I'd be like, no, but you will be too hot.
I was the opposite.
And it, like, I remember it hitting me at one point in time, like, how in the world can I pretend to know what the temperature is going to be like in that being's body? Like, it's not mine.
Yes.
But it wasn't out of, like, I wasn't trying to control it. It's motherhood. It's, you're doing the best you can for your child in this circumstance. Like, I don't want you to be hot at nighttime, so I'm just going to put you in whatever blanket I think is appropriate. I hate flannel sheets. I hate fleece blankets, so I did not give them to my children. They all like them now. They choose them. It's what they want. And like, who cares? It doesn't bother me at all. But I like withheld that for them for so long because in my mind, it's too hot. And great, like that's for me. But yeah, so it extends to this concept of like, I find joy in whichever, in physical activities. So clearly my kids are going to find joy in physical activities, right? Like, let's get them in sports. Let's get them in running. Let's get them in all those things without ever making the conscious discovery that you made 3 new beings and they just have nothing to do with you in reality. Like, sure, they share your physical genes, but like, it means on no level will they share your interests or desires or body temperature. Yes. So we have so many people putting their kids in so many things. And sometimes it's easy, like, to mistake it, because when you're excited about something and the fun part of you comes out, your kids can glom onto that. Yeah. And be like, oh, when I jump on the trampoline with my mom, she's fun. So like, clearly that is fun and that's what I like to do too. Yes. And it's not authentic to them.
It is actually not the activity. We miss sometimes that it's not the activity, but the pleasure that they are receiving through that activity.
Connection.
Which is, and the connection. So is it really that you want to jump in the trampoline, or is it you want more time with mommy?
Yeah. Will
you feel the same joy if you read a story with mommy, feeling this connection, than if you were jumping in the trampoline? Because now you are just a trampoline jumper, or you're going to be a story reader, like, you know what I mean? It's like,
absolutely,
what's behind the desire and the wish of being, or for being in a certain activity, doing a certain thing.
Yeah.
Like, you and I are going now through something funny for me, and for Ivan at least.
Something funny?
Yeah, Nicholas.
Okay.
Nico is now asking to be registered in football.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, and Ivan and I are like, we have nothing to do with sports. Like, we have nothing against it, but we are not sporty people.
Yeah.
And Nico somehow comes like, I want to play football. And I'm like, I don't even understand the freaking game. I don't know. I know nothing. I don't know how they score. I don't know yards. I don't know, like, nothing. It's like, oh my God. And not only that, I am a over freaking mom. Like, whenever something happens to my child, I'm like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I cannot, for the love of me, imagine my child being tackled on the floor so many times and being not jumping, from my chair. Like, that's going to be a stressful moment for me. And I brought it up to Ivan, who was away. And on the phone, I was like, I don't know how to say this to you, but Nico wants to be registered in football. And Ivan is like, oh, well, that's okay. And it's like, are you kidding me? Okay. No, I don't want him to play football. I want him to play whatever else. Soccer. He wants to play sport, whatever. Everything but football.
Yeah.
But why not? Because I don't understand the game. I don't know. They tackle, they fall on the floor. Now on Saturdays, like they have so many injuries in the brain. It's like, oh my fucking God, like what am I gonna do with this child playing football? But Ivan, with his wisdom again, is like, honey, it's not up to us to decide what he wants to do and how he wants to experience things in life. Let's just be
Open.
and space, a safe space for them to dare to ask for something, to go and experiment and experience, to see if they really like it. In my mind, in the freaking game, I'm like, please don't like the game. Please get bored in the game. No, that child is very excited. We'll see. But at the same time, it's like, it is not up to me to decide what he is going to do or what not to do because of my level of comfort, which brings us or connects us with the how you're going to feel your feelings that make me comfortable or make me comfortable. If you yell too much, it's going to make me uncomfortable. So please don't yell. But the freaking child, that's the way to express their feelings. So you want them to express their feelings in a way that you feel comfortable. That is so selfish. It's like, Nico is the one exploding the house. Something happens to Nico and we all think that somebody cut their finger. No, it's the freaking child feeling whatever feelings he's feeling because his Legos has been touched. And the entire house can go on fire just because somebody dared to take a piece of the Lego, right? At the same time, in full honesty, they learn those things from us too. So yes, the house getting on like burning, I am the one. Because as a child, I was not allowed to say anything. I was not allowed to feel my feelings. And do not cry. I don't want to see you cry. And if you cry, I'm going to give you more reasons to cry. You know what I mean? It's like, now that I'm an adult and I don't need permission from anybody to feel my feelings, I burn the freaking house. Sometimes it's overreaction, but I think sometimes it's like an accumulation of feelings, repressed. It's like, I'm now a full volcano.
I know. There's so
letting the feelings and whatever I'm going through explode because I cannot tame it anymore. Like, please let me explode. And now my child is exploding not only for him, but for me too. And who knows for how many other generations behind me. Because if my parents taught me not to cry and I was not allowed to cry, I bet my parents were not allowed to cry either. And maybe my grandparents either. And you know what I mean? Yeah. It's a progression and evolution. And now these beautiful children have a beautiful space to be able to yell and scream and burn the house if they need to release all the emotions that have been tamed generation after generation after generation.
I'm over here laughing to myself because we opened this podcast to speak on finding authenticity in motherhood. I think thinking that maybe we could package that up neatly in 40 minutes. And instead we have touched on what you were just talking about, like learning how to parent from the way we were parented and trying to teach our kids a better way. So like dealing with how to be authentic to where you come from. We touched briefly on how to be authentic in comparison to the people that are in your peripheral. Do you know what I mean? Looking at other moms. You very briefly, at the beginning, you wanted to talk about like you and I comparing ourselves now that we share a space so we don't have a space to hide anymore. And then we also talked about like the systemic issues of motherhood, where I was talking about over busying our kids, over busying ourselves, and moms just piling everything onto themselves. So there's so many components to this concept of authentic motherhood that are definitely not going to fit inside of a 40-minute episode. So it feels like we just opened a chapter for like 5 more podcasts to come, one on each of those topics that I just went into. We'll just unpack them in larger ways. This is just the thesis statement of that podcast series.
At the same time, if you wrap them all, like you were able to put them apart, but if you wrap them up and you put them all together, you will make a beautiful bouquet, which is called authentic motherhood. It's like I'm all this, my way of feeling my feelings, my way of relating to other moms, my way of offering or not offering a space for my children, the way of projecting or not projecting my fears to my children, my way of choosing or not choosing the activities for my children, who my children is supposed to be. All that is authentic motherhood, I think.
Oh yeah, no, I agree wholly.
Yeah. Of course, we are again on one layer.
Yeah.
We could go layer after layer after layer, but as humans, I really don't think that we are ready to tap into authentic motherhood as it is ingrained, or as I like to call it, blueprinted in our souls. I don't think we are there yet.
That is another
as
interesting
humankind,
question
but
that we will not get into right now.
No. No.
But that was fun. I don't think I expected that conversation to go the way that it did. But I loved it. Like I said, I feel we have so many more things to expand upon, which is why we end up talking till 3 a.m. because we start with like, can I just ask you a question about this one thing? And then, yeah, so many times we should go to bed. We should go to bed. Yeah. Well, right now we should go to bed, not actually because it's the middle of the day, but we should allow you space to carry on with your day and allow ourselves space to carry on with our day.
And to integrate all this.
And to integrate it all, yeah, take a moment if you can to just, I don't know. We should tell people to get a notebook at the beginning of the podcast so they can write down things.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. She's like, I assumed they already were. I'm a note taker. Of course, everybody's taking notes.
No, I'm not. I am not. I have a, what do you call those machines? Typewriter?
A typewriter.
A very, very old one? Honey, I am not a digital person.
Okay.
I either handwrite on my notebook or I imagine a typewriter in my brain with all this, and because those are the spaces that I like to stay in.
Okay.
Those are the little tornadoes that I have inside.
Okay.
Yes. So
Wrap it up.
Yeah, this is everything for today. For today's podcast. Hoping again to inspire your journey as a mom, as a member of this planet, as someone that is a unique expression of this so-called God or universe or universal mind, and hoping for real that you get into your most authentic version of yourself, the one that makes you feel fulfilled, loved, happy, and joyous. See you next time.
See you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.